Hi everyone, my name is Bruce and I'm an addict. Yeah, I got you, I didn't know he was going to chair for me. So while driving here with my lovely fiance, I said to her, well, if no one's there to chair for me, will you chair for me? You know, you should have seen the look on her face. But anyway, but that's me. You know, I always wanted to be special and different, and put things out there. I also asked someone in treatment if they would chair for me, and his counsellor said no. I didn't even know if my sponsor was going to be a Ruan, and that's why he's nervous, because literally walked in the door and I said, "Are you chairing today?" But that's me. Spur of the win. I'll do things like the reading was saying. Pretty much not thinking about my actions and the consequences because every action I put in has some form of consequence, whether it be a good one or a bad one. And what I see today is that regardless of the consequence, being good or bad, I know that with God in my life, I have the opportunity to learn from either one. And I hadn't seen that for a very long time. This is not my first year share. It's my second first year share. But I'll get to that a little bit later. I suppose I used to do woodwork in this class in Standard 7 or Standard 6, and through these doors in the back here we used to sniff wood glue and get a bit of a buzz, and then realize the consequence of that would be a major headache later. But that buzz and that rush every woodwork class once a week was quite amazing, And I don't even enjoy it really. I did it because there were girls involved. I did it because it was part of the group thing, and that's pretty much, how I always wanted to be a part of something, and I always wanted to fit in, and I would manipulate and lie, and I wanted to be I wanted to be the cool kid. I didn't want to be a part of the cool kids. I wanted to be the cool kid. And I'll do anything to do that, I grew up in this town, went to primary school down here, and I grew up only child, loving family, parents are social drinkers. My drug of choice is alcohol, and I grew up not wanting. I remember saying one day to my mom and dad, not for any specific reason for what they had done or anything, I said I'll never smoke and I'll never drink, and I want to be a success in life, and I want to become somebody, and I want to do something with my life. And they supported me throughout that. My parents weren't well off or anything. They were a pretty moderate family, but I never needed or wanted anything. It always just came to me, Not much to do in this little town, but have a small group of friends in your class and a couple of acres above you and below you. And all we did was surf and dive for crayfish and play sports and cricket, and that's what I grew up doing. Nothing outrageous. I remember being told a couple of times that from friends and their families that I need to go home. You've spent 3 weeks here now. It's time for you to go home. During holidays, and I wanted to be a part of something, and I was always searching for something to be a part of and be welcomed and loved. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. So I suppose my first real episode in drinking was they had a Arapaho concert here on the beachfront, and it was the biggest thing that had hit Scopra for us youngsters, and it was amazing. And my parents had a bar at home, and we took our juice bottles and we emptied our juice bottles, liquor into these juice bottles, and went down to the beach, and we forgot to buy like a mix, like a Coke or something. And I see now, in hindsight, my friends all took a sip of this and they spat it out because it was vile, and I drank the whole thing. It burned the shit out of my throat, and I don't remember anything. About an hour or two later, I don't remember anything what happened that night. So I remember waking up. They used to have this fountain in the middle of the kiddie swimming pool, and I remember waking up with the fountain started at 6 in the morning, and the water falling on me, and my parents were looking for me. From that, I got a little talking to, no consequence, to my actions. It was a little slap on the wrist. But I remember coming back to school on Monday, and everyone was telling me what a wild child. And I remember a little bit about it, and I was free. It was a freeing feeling, and I was alive, and I could dance all of a sudden, and it was so much like I just felt alive. And I can't say if that was like what I fixed on, because it wasn't, because I didn't drink again, I didn't go next weekend and drink like that again. It was a very rare occasion that we would do that. I suppose with regards to school, when I was very young, I class standard 2 or something like that. I was told I was dyslexic, and that I had a learning disability, and I might have to stay back. I've passed, but I'm going to struggle if I go through. And my parents, what they did is they told me to stay behind. But they sent me to some teacher, and she figured out that I'd mixed numbers and words and stuff up. But I remember going back to school and being so fearful of what people would think of me, because I was part of the group that I thought was cool. The guys, we were such a close-knit unit, and now all of a sudden I was in a new class with new kids, and I didn't know what to do and what they would say. I didn't know what my friends would say. I kept it quiet the whole of December, and I walked into this class, and everyone went in upstairs, and I had to go into the same classroom I was in the year before, and I was terrified. But what I soon figured out is that it was the same stuff. It was the same subjects, same material, and I had the books from last year. So I went from being a very, very below average student to being the first in my class. And then what I figured out the following year is that the guys that were my friends still, that were in the class that same year, I got all their books. So for the entire primary school years, I was cheating. And I was like A student, got ducks, because I was doing the work before I was actually doing the work in class, And then I came to this high school, and then I got a sports scholarship to go to Durban school, which I went to. Also, same thing, full of fear, not knowing who would be there, if I would be accepted. Literally rocking up the day before school started into a boarding establishment that was very, very strict and full of traditions, not realizing that the grades above you actually run the school, and the matrics and prefects run the school, and not the teachers. And that's the way the teachers ran the school, is realizing that they gave them all the power to look after the grades that were below us. And my first night there, I got caned for the first time, smacked for the first time. My parents never hit me; they probably should have. running away from this boarding establishment, phoning my mom at Musgrave Centre and crying and telling her, please come fetch me, no, and then getting a tap on the shoulder from the guy that just caned me 6 times, And funny enough, and what was so shit about it is that it was a guy that actually grew up in this town with me, but he was obviously 4 years older than me. And I was riddled with fear, and boarding school, I didn't know what to do, and then someone told me that I needed to just get stuck in, do what you need to do, and be a part of, and make friends, and do what you need to do. And funny enough, that worked, like I made friends, and I ended up loving boarding school and high school. I did pretty well, sports-wise. Got a bit of affirmation and attention, which I loved, from both teachers, girls, and guys, the guys in my form, and the school as itself, Made Natal, SA Academy for various sporting events, and I thought I thought I was it. I thought I was the man, and I had a vision and I had a goal, which I mentioned earlier, and that was to become something and to be someone. And what happened was, when I left school, I didn't make the Natal side out of school, and a guy that was playing in a lower team at school with me made that team, and I thought, I know it sounds silly, but I thought my life was over. It was destroyed. My plan had been removed, and I didn't know how to handle it. And what happened was that I rebelled. I had rebelled many times during school, and I always got attention from that, and then got what I wanted. Except this time it didn't work. What happened was that I actually got banned. I did certain things to this guy and the club that I was working or playing for, and it was it was detriment to my own. It was my consequences, and I was kicked out. And then all of a sudden I had no friends anymore. I did have friends, but in my head I didn't. I wasn't a part of something anymore, and I started really starting to drink and use and party, and the varsity college that I was going to, my grades dropped. I ended up failing. I ended up not going back and lying to my father and putting forward fraudulent documents together in order to show him that I had passed. But yet he still carried on paying for my flat that I was staying in for another year and a half. And I changed subjects and done certain things, and eventually my dad said to me, it's time for you to start working. And I ended up getting into IT, and worked in this IT company for 15 years. Same IT company, same department, same thing, because I was too fearful to move and too fearful because it was comfortable. I knew my surroundings, I knew what I was doing, and I stayed there for 15 years. And I hated it. I didn't hate it in the beginning, but I hated it because I was too scared to move on. Anyway, while that was all happening, I met my daughter's mother. I was drinking and using quite heavily at that stage, and so was she. Within a couple of months, she had moved in. Within the year, she fell pregnant. Everyone told us to get rid of it, and we didn't. And today, I'm so thankful we didn't. And not even a year and a half after Summer was born, I helped her pack up her stuff, and she moved back to her parents in Pietermaritzburg. And that was a great great excuse for me to do what I wanted to do. And all through this time, I mean, there's always, the war stories like we all have. I was caught drinking and driving multiple times, paid off cops, paid off lawyers to lose documents. Never really actually feeling the consequence. And then towards the end, I started realizing that nobody really wanted to be around me anymore. And, not even my parents. Like I would ask them if they were going for drinks after work, and I'd phone them, and I could hear they were in the pub, and they would say no, they're at home. It's amazing. Like my dad was telling me, like, Bruce, you can't just have more than two drinks. You can't stop, and you got a problem. And I was like, yeah, I can. So I'd prove him wrong, and I'd go out and I'd have 2 drinks, and I'd go home, and I'd do that once or twice after that, and then I wouldn't. And I was pretty much a binge drinker. I wouldn't drink for 4 or 5 days, 5 days, 6 days, maybe even 2 weeks. But when I did, I wouldn't stop for 3 or 4 days until my body actually collapsed, and I couldn't actually physically stand anymore. Nobody knew that, except for the people really close to me, like Summer's mom. And that's why she ended up leaving, because she was too scared to have Summer around me. She was too scared to have my own daughter around me anymore. So for her sake, she left, for my daughter's sake. And it was the best thing that ever happened. One of the best things that ever happened to me. Not realizing it at the time. My work eventually had enough of me, and they decided, listen, yeah, this is enough. We're gonna put you on a program, and you're gonna have to stop drinking, and you're tested once a month or once a week or whatever it is. And I said to them, look, no way I can do that. I've tried. The longest I've lasted was 3 weeks, and I can't do it by myself. And they said, that's fine. Phone your medical aid and find some help, and that's where I ended up in treatment. Yes. Sorry. So yeah, like you guys, most of you guys here, I went to the same treatment center you went to. That was in 2012, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It gave me awakenings that I'd never thought I'd ever experience. It opened my eyes to the fact that I have no clue on how to live life. I have no purpose in life. I have no real goal or any vision whatsoever. It revolved around me, and selfish and self-centered to the core. What that place did for me is it broke me in ways I never knew. But at the same time, it gave me the best opportunity of a new life. Doing the steps out of the green and gold, being introduced to the steps that most of us are doing, gave me the freedom to make the right choices. Anyway, I went back to work after treatment, after spending 4 months in treatment, and leaving. I spent 4 years there. I was very fortunate to get Summer back in my life, my daughter. I had it very, very early. I think I left treatment in November. That December, I had her for 6 weeks. She was a 2.5-year-old little girl that I'd never met before. My mom showed me that she had no photos of me and Summer when she was growing up. I asked her mother if there were any photos. There was not one. I was never there. So for the first time I was bathing her, first time I was changing her nappy and feeding her for 6 weeks by myself. I had to remember her, I had to take her to hospital. She was quite a sickly child. I had to take her to hospital. I learned responsibility very quickly in my early recovery, and that's what I realized I never had before. Responsibility for myself, or never let anybody else's life. And I think that was one of the best things that ever happened. My relationship today with Summer is amazing. She still lives with her mom, but recently she's been asking Geraldine and I if she can live with us, which says something that I can't explain. We obviously, I think we are both doing something right, but this is about me. For once. We're doing something right, you know. Anyway, recovery is not easy. I'm pretty self-reliant, and I'll only ask for help when I'm in pain. I used to have a sponsor that used to say that this is, you know, addicts are pain seekers. That's what we relate to, and that's what we live in. We live in the drama. We live in the chaos, and we've got to learn not to live there. But my disease, for me, will push the limit. And what happened was that certain things happened in my life. An accident happened, and someone died in my care, and this was in recovery, and I never reached out properly. I reached out where I knew they wouldn't have to really face what the reality was. I reached out to certain people that I knew that would give me a pat on the back and tell me it would be okay. And I never really did what I needed to do. And just after my fifth year sobriety, I went away, and I was in a beautiful place, and I hadn't even thought about it, and I picked up a drink. And the worst thing about it is that I never got drunk. The next night, I picked up another couple, and I never got drunk again. I picked up the following night, I never got drunk again. When I came home, feeling pretty guilty, but shitting myself because of the fact that I knew that my ego was wanting to kill me. I was too ashamed to own up to that fact. I was too ashamed, too embarrassed, too fearful of the consequences, and I didn't know how to answer the questions I might be asked. And my head spun for a year. I never drank again after coming back for that week away. Never drank again for a year, and I spent a year in recovery. You could say that. I spent a year of recovery in these rooms, doing service, sharing my 6-year milestone. I remember I didn't do one thing though. I was asked by a couple of people to be their sponsor, and I said no, I think it's more suitable you find someone else, and I'll give you. Because I knew in the back of my heart that I knew I was not okay. But the longer I kept that secret, the worse it got. Exactly the same trip away, pretty much. I went away again for work, and I drank again just after my 6-year sobriety. But this time, I didn't get drunk away, but when I came home, within that year, my resentment and my animosity towards others I was impossible. Geraldine will tell you, I was impossible to live with. And this is a person in recovery. She had to leave for her own recovery. And that's not even drinking. That's just holding on to a secret. Holding on to her dishonesty and a lie. That's what it created. To me, it wasn't so bad in my head because I minimized everything. But my actions and words were obviously bad enough for somebody who loves me dearly to leave me. After my 6 years sobriety, I drank again. I went away, but I didn't get drunk because I was working, being responsible. And in this whole year's time, I'm telling myself I'm different because I didn't get drunk, and I've stayed sober a year, so maybe I am. So this madness is going in my head for this entire year, and but when I came back and Geraldine wasn't there, wasn't at home, I had an opportunity to get drunk at my local, and I did. But this time I got properly drunk, and I knew as I was drinking and using was that my whole year of thinking was a lie to myself. That I wasn't normal like everybody else. I was alcoholic because the more I was drinking, I was telling myself to stop. Like physically saying, Bruce, stop. And it wouldn't stop. I couldn't stop. So I understand now how powerful this allergy is that we have, and the mental obsession through that year. Anyway, so I owned up to this. The first person I owned it up to was that night when I was still drunk. Selfishly, I think, was to Geraldine's. We were still together, not living together, but still together. The man to my left pretty much saved my life. I was so fearful of telling my friends and my sponsor at the time, but I had to. I had to get real, I had to get honest. Don took me through the steps and opened my eyes again, like I did the first time. But what I realized this time, doing it the second time around and doing it again, was what the things that I'd forgotten, things that really meant the world. The foundation of my recovery is like I will never feel the pain I've caused others, and I'll never see it really when I'm in it. But I've got to fucking remember it, because that there for me is the power that is a gift, because it's a gift that I can use to remind myself why I need to do this program, and why I need to stay honest, and why I need to be of service, and why I need to help others. I learned something that's very, very simple, is that it's trust God, clean house, and help others. This year's been amazing. Geraldine moved back in after begging that she wanted to move back in. I begged her. I said, let's stop playing games. And we got engaged. Summer's been around this whole journey, this whole time. I remember on my birthday, just after owning up to all of this, I was given a teddy bear on Father's Day in treatment by her. This teddy bear had been away. She took it back to her mom's house for about 4 years. It was Christmas. Sorry, not my birthday. Birthday and Christmas pretty close. That for me, though, in December. This teddy bear was wrapped up. I didn't know it was in as a present to me from her. And I was about a month or two clean, and I think it was like within 6 months, and she gave me this teddy bear, this present for Christmas, and I opened it. This teddy bear was my first higher power in treatment. It was the first concept of a higher power to me, because it's not the teddy bear, but what revolved around the teddy bear. And it's amazing how God gives you these little gifts and signs to remind you of what is important in life. I spent so much of my time, so many years, so involved in myself and hurting others without knowing it. I wouldn't know I was hurting others. But without knowing it, having no clue and direction in life, I was lost. And this teddy bear reminded me of everything again and what is important in life, and that is friends, family, service, God, and living life, because life is too short. I spend too much time in that mess. I want to be a part of something greater than myself, and I think I found it in these rooms. So thanks for letting me share.